How do you call your girl out for cheating on you if you have no solid proof? Hi there, men's dating coach HarryWilmington here, founder of IntrovertDatingSuccess.com. And on today's show, we're going to be answering a question from a guy that wants to know if he should call his girlfriend out based on recent behavior she's been showing that could indicate that she's cheating, yet he doesn't actually have solid proof of this current thing of events whereby he thinks that she might be cheating. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of when I post up new daily videos. All right, so before I get into this, as I've said this week, guys, if you're watching this in the middle of December, this Saturday, December 19th, I'm going to be hosting a live event, and it is the Smart Digital Dating Live event, and this is going to be everything you want to know about how to do online dating from start to finish. Everything from setting up your bio, putting together your pictures, talking to women online, increasing their interest by way of messaging, all the way up to getting a date. And going into this new year, guys, unfortunately, we're still in a pandemic, so that means the best way for you to be able to meet new women is going to be through online dating and phone app dating. And prior to the pandemic, and including during a pandemic, I have been able to have great success meeting high-quality women through these sites. But you have to know what you're doing, and if you don't know what you're doing, then you're going to think it's a waste of time. You're going to think that all the girls in there just don't want me or whatever, and really it just could simply be a few tweaks to your profile and the way that you message that could make all the difference. So if you're interested in learning that, it's a $97 masterclass. It's 3 hours where I'm going to give you live training, and also you'll have a chance to ask me questions about online dating and profiles and stuff like that all within the same class. So if that's something you're interested in, go to IntrovertDatingSuccess.com right now on the front page. You can click on the link to sign up for it, and then I will see you on Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right, so be sure to check that out. So let's go ahead and get to today's question. I thought this was interesting, so I always go on these various dating forums and read people's stories and stuff and see if I can find anything that could be beneficial to you guys. And so I found an interesting story with this guy I'm about to read to you, and he's been with this girl for 7 years now, and he's gotten into an interesting situation with her a few times here and there. She's cheated in the past, and they got over it, but now he's starting to notice signs of her possibly doing that again and hanging out with a lot of guys. And I really want to touch on this because you might have a situation whereby you are suspecting your woman of doing activities that indicate that she might not be as faithful to you as you'd like her to be. And what do you do in those situations, and how can you avoid those situations altogether in the first place? Let's go ahead and get into this guy's message. So he goes, and I'm going to stop and start throughout the course of this message. So he starts off, he says, I've been in a relationship with a woman for 7 years. We share a 2-year-old together, and she has a child, age 8, that I have practically raised in place of her biological father. So I want to stop here for a second to remind you guys, when you're out there in the dating world looking for potential mates, ideally, you're not going after single moms. Single moms are by far, it's not that they're bad people, but they come with a lot of baggage. And in the case of this guy, he's been with her for 7 years, and he's been with her kid for that long. If she decides to leave him altogether and flip out or whatever, well, he has no legal access to her kid anymore. And he now has a 7-year bond with a kid that can potentially be taken away from him simply because it's not his kid, okay? So be mindful of that, okay? And also, I really stress this, guys. You should not be trying to have kids with women that you are not married to. Okay, I know it might seem like a good idea. Hey, you want to plan a life with somebody, and so you want to start backwards by having the kid first and then possibly getting married and then possibly getting a place to live together. But again, that's just traditionally, kids typically grow up a lot more well-balanced in environments where there's two parents there that are married, okay? And because it adds a little more stability to their life versus this thing where like, well, we have a kid, but we're not married, so if she goes away, oh, well, what's gonna happen? Is the kid gonna have to go to two parents? Like, that's not really fair to the kid. So really try to find a woman, A, that is single with no kids, and then also, if you decide you two wanna have kids, really try to make that wait until after you're married. Some of you might think like, oh, that's just old-fashioned, you're thinking differently. I've seen it too many times whereby I used to have friends back in the day that came from those kind of parent homes where the parents got together and then they had my friend and then they split up, and that's it. The mental toll that it takes on the kid's psyche is not worth your selfishness right now. Continuing on, he says, for the first few years of our relationship, she had a habit of being close with single men that wanted her. She would hang out with them away from me and would leave her daughter with me, but she assured me that nothing ever happened with them. So already this is a bad setup. But here's the important thing, okay, is that this woman, when she started doing this, he didn't express any kind of dislike. And what happens in relationships is anything that you are willing to accept early on only gets multiplied later. And as it gets multiplied and worse, you can't complain about it because you didn't nip it in the bud early on. And you have to be mindful of women that are making friends with guys. It's not that it's a problem if they're necessarily friends with other guys, because I have friends that are women all day long. But if they are friends with guys that she knows and that you know are actively trying to get with her, and she's still putting herself in that environment, what basically that means is that she is subconsciously saying, I am open to another guy. Because she wouldn't put herself in a place where she knew other guys would want to hit on her if she wasn't thinking there's the possibility I might reciprocate. Okay? So when that starts happening, guys, you got to understand, these are the moments when you got to stick up for yourself and what you want out of a relationship. Chances are you do not want a woman that is going to be hanging around guys that she knows are attracted to her. Okay? So in those situations, you don't have to do the whole thing of like, well, I don't want to change, blah, blah. You do everything according to action. If she starts doing actions that she wants to hang around these guys that like her, then you do one or two actions. Either you start hanging out around women that you know want to get with you, or you walk away altogether. And when she starts to complain, you say something to the effect of, hey, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but you seem like you really want to hang around these guys that you know that like you, and I'm not about that life, so I'm out. If you change your mind, hit me up. And then ultimately that leaves it up to her to make the decision. And she may well decide that she wants to hang out with these other guys and leave you to the dust, which is fine because you don't want that kind of woman in your camp anyway, because that's a really quick way to end up not trusting the person. And that is his own heinous thing altogether. But when you make that motion, she's going to be able to see that you were standing up for the things that you want. And if she wants to get with that program, she knows what she has to do. Okay? Continuing on. He says, eventually, after a big argument, something did happen once, but she assured me it was a one-time thing. I had a lot of trust issues with her after that. So, to recap, she's hanging out with all these guys that she knows likes her. He's trying to say, you shouldn't do that. She's saying, it's no big deal. I don't want to get with them, but then she does. At this point, you should be out. There's actually more to this message, but at the point where she actually does the action of showing that she's going to be unfaithful guy, you could try to go to counseling, you can try to rebuild that trust, but in the back of your mind, you're always going to have this thing of knowledge that she actually did the action of stepping out on you. And that is a woman that cannot be trusted, and that is going to cause you turmoils and headaches in your head. Think about it now. Now, every time she goes out and says, well, I want to still hang out with these guys that like me, and you're trying to say, well, but you know because you cheated, and she's going to try to start a fight over that. Does that sound like a fun relationship to be in? I don't think so, guy. So at the point where a woman showed you she can't be trusted, you need to be out. Yes, you can, accept her apology. You can forgive her, but that does not mean that just because you forgive her that you should stay around. You need to get out of that environment. There are women out there that will be more trustworthy and that will actually like you for who you are and will not step out on you. Don't accept this kind of behavior just because you're worried about finding somebody else. Or I know with a lot of introverts, once we get used to a person, the idea of having to go out there and meet another person and get to know them all over again can be taxing in and of itself. But would you rather do that? Or would you rather say, well, because that's going to be uncomfortable, I'm just going to stay in this relationship where my girl's going to cheat on me? That's probably not where you want to be, guy. Think about that. Okay? So she's cheated, and now they have trust issues. Duh. Continuing, he says, it all stopped for 3 years until about 4 months ago. She had been talking about being unhappy in the relationship and wanting some space to herself. And so I will say this, even though I don't like this woman at this point, understand, guy, that when women start to say this, what usually that means is that you are spending too much time with the woman, meaning you're not giving her a break in the day. If you're living together, you're constantly up under her. And even though you might be an introvert, introverts still do this thing where once they get to know somebody, they can have a better time at being able to be around them and get tired not as quickly. And so you might make the mistake of bonding with somebody and then spending all your time with them. And then the few times they say, hey, I want a break to, do my own thing or just to be in the house in a room by myself to read, you start crying, oh my God, how can you do that? Do you not like me? Why don't you want to be around me? And that can stress women to freak out to the point where they're going to try to find any excuse to get away from you, and then they might end up sneaking out and doing stuff. Okay, not all women, but that can happen because you're basically pushing this agenda that she has to be around you all the time. Now, granted, she's lost trust, so that is part of it, but I imagine this was probably also happening prior to her cheating. Okay, so you really have to study what behaviors you're doing that could be making a woman unhappy or starting to make her want to drift far away from you. All right, and so, yeah, so, okay, continue on. She didn't want us to break up. She just wanted a little distance to figure herself out and decide if she wanted us to keep going. I wasn't happy about that, but I respected the need for distance. And then it says in parentheses, since we've been on top of each other since the pandemic. Exactly. And there have been a lot of breakups and divorces during this pandemic because people don't realize, like prior to the pandemic, people had jobs. So you actually would not see your significant other for hours on end because you'd be at work. You may go to the bar after work or whatever. And so you might not see her from like 8 or 9 in the morning until about 5 or 6 at night. But now there's a pandemic, people are working at home, and they're not realizing that even though we're at home, I still need time to, as much as I love this person, be the heck away from them for hours on end so I can feel like myself and I can be happy to actually see them versus being forced to see them all the time where now it's not a choice and now you feel like you're seeing too much of the person and they're up under you and they're not giving you a break, okay? So I understand what he's saying here about that. But everybody says, I was happy about it, but I respected the need for distance. This is one of those things where what women will typically do is they will say some stuff like, hey, so I'm unhappy and I'm thinking we need some time and space apart or whatever. And guys will take that as, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to respect that and give you a little bit of distance or whatever. But this is right away saying something to the effect of like, I'm darn near close to breaking up with you. Okay. And so one or two things needs to happen. One is that you need to walk away and just be like, hey, you know what? You clearly need some time. Let's just, we can go to our separate places or whatever, and you figure yourself out. Because women that want to figure themselves out are practically on the way out anyway, but they might need that extra push to really be on their own, to really have to decide if they want to continue if they want to be without you or continue to live with you, okay? So there's none of this stuff like, I respect that, and oh my God, because they're still be in the same house together. Like, that needs to be a full break. Because at this point, you need to do something more jarring to her to really make her see the full picture of if she wants to be with you or not, all right? Continuing on, he says, around that same time she started talking this way, she started texting with someone she knew from work. She was open that he was highly attracted to her and she was physically attracted to him. So now she's coming out and saying to this guy, hey, just so you know, there's this guy at work that I see on a regular basis that I'm physically attracted to and would possibly want to do stuff with. At that point, guy, you're out. And she might be one of those that she's saying these things hoping that you as the guy is going to recognize it and break up with her first so she can tell the stories later about how you were a horrible guy and you broke her heart and stuff like that. And I've had this done to me before whereby a girl that I broke up with, she'll tell her girlfriends later on like, oh yeah, he was just horrible and this and that. And that's not the story, but that's the story she's going to tell. Okay. But regardless of how that plays out, when this kind of thing happens, this is now disrespect. Because now she's telling you, I'm still hanging around guys other than you that I find attractive and possibly do stuff with. You need to let that go. Some women are going to be toxic. And I know that's a hard thing to believe, especially for you guys that are younger that are thinking like, oh, women are angels and they would never bring harm purposefully to me. No, women will be sometimes in their own self-interest and they're going to do what's best for them in the moment. And they're going to have these emotional moments where they just feel so connected, tied to this other guy that they're going to do some stuff and then regret it later. But that still doesn't take away the fact that she did the action. And so the action she's showing is she's flirting with another guy. That's not her boyfriend. That's not her baby's father. And it's also physically attractive. And she's already had a history of cheating on this guy before, which means she could very well do it again. At that point, guy, you should have ended it. You should have deaded it. He should have been like, you know what? This isn't working out. You clearly are attracted to other guys. And I'm about trying to be monogamous and stable with one person. So we're out. We'll figure out the thing with the kid that we have together. But in terms of us being together, it's a wrap. And then he needs to move on. Continuing, let's see. She says, she started leaving early for work to go spend time alone with him. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. She refused to not do it despite me telling her that it was making me very uncomfortable. She also made a point to tell me that she changed the password on her phone. Guys, How many hints do you need to be able to see that this kind of woman is no longer highly interested? And this is very, very important because I really stress in this program that you want to go after women that are showing high interest levels in you. So women that are highly interested do very respectful things to you because they want to keep you around. Women that are losing interest or have lost interest are going to do things that they know is annoying and disrespectful. And I know you might think, well, it's not that, it's just that she just wants to be able to, do things the way she wants to without me, a guy telling her what to do or whatever. But no, because if the roles were reversed, she would not want this guy flirting with other women and having had an affair now proceed to talk to a woman at his job that he's attracted to, that he's saying, oh, we just flirt and I want to go to work to see her earlier and I want to do stuff with her outside of me and you just spending one-on-one time with each other. Like, think about that guy. Do you think that would fly? Do you think if the girl you're dating right now saw you doing that stuff that she'd be cool with it? So if she wouldn't be, then why would you accept that behavior from her? But a lot of guys do this because when women start showing these kind of signs, what it says to us in our ego is, she's no longer finding us attractive. And your ego is going to fight tooth and nail to make that reality not true because your ego is all about self-preservation. So when she says, I'm going to work and I'm going to see this other guy, your ego is going to say, well, but no, she has to like me. Like, it can't be this. I know if I just convince her enough and say enough words, then she's going to show me the respect that she knows she wants to show me in the first place. But you got to look at the reality of the situation. The reality of this situation is she's flirting, texting a guy, finds him attractive, and is going early to work to spend time with him. None of these are good signs, guys, and you shouldn't stick around for it. And then she changed her password on the phone, too. That is definitely not trustworthy, right? Okay. He says, after a while, she stopped hanging out with him, but then she started hanging out with a different man and said it was okay because she was not attracted to him, while also acknowledging that he was highly attracted to her. But I still wasn't allowed around them. So now he's not even allowed around these other guys that she's finding attractive. That is also a very, very bad sign, guys. And hopefully you know this by now. He says she would leave the house to meet him in his car around the corner. She would leave the room when he was in a video chat with her, or at least turn the camera so I couldn't be seen. One time she went drinking with him and a couple of her girlfriends, and they all spent the night at his house. So that's the story that he was told, that they all spent the night. But what really probably happened was they all went to his house, her other two girlfriends left, and then it was just him and her, and they stayed all night. Keep in mind, this is a grown woman with a man at home and two kids at home, and she stayed the night at another guy's house. Does any of this read like a guy that is of a woman that is highly interested or respects this guy? Let's see. He says, for over a week, she would leave me with the kids and spend the night out, wouldn't come back until right before I had to go to work. Wouldn't answer her phone or always had a reason why she couldn't pick up or answer a text. She would walk out while I cried my eyes out, knowing what I was thinking, but it wouldn't stop her. A few times she just disappeared on me, and I would find out where she was when I got a text message. When I eventually confronted her more directly and told her, where there's smoke, there's fire, I think you're cheating on me, she objected, denied it, said I was paranoid and delusional, said that she was doing all of those things because she wanted space. She admitted that she would think the same things I was thinking, but still, I was paranoid and delusional. So now what she's doing is she's deflecting and she's trying to basically put the blame on him like, oh, you're just being paranoid about this and how dare you not trust me and I just needed space and how whatever. These are all tactics that cheaters use when they're trying to cover up. But regardless of if she's cheating or not, let's say for argument's sake, she's not cheating at all. At the point where he said to her, hey, your behavior is making me uncomfortable. This is showing a level of disrespect that I don't want to deal with. And I wish you would stop hanging out with this guy or these guys. Or at least you would invite me along to go with you. And she rejected all that. That's at the point where the disrespect level is so high that if you decide to stay in that, now you're making the decision for her to cheat on you. What I mean by is that if she's cheating, that's her fault, but you staying there and sticking it out means you're accepting it. And again, guy, if there are behaviors happening that are blatantly disrespectful to the relationship and to your guys' time together, then as hard as it's going to be, you either have to leave out of that and find a new situation, or if you decide to stay in it, you can't complain. Because we're not in the habit of trying to teach you how to stay in a relationship that's bad. We're teaching you how to try to get into ones that are respectful. If they're not being respectful and you're staying in it, then you got to find a whole new coach and you got to figure out ways that you can mentally get over your spouse cheating or girlfriend cheating, knowing that she's cheating and be okay with it. Because if you're not going to change the situation, then why are you complaining about it? Real talk. Continuing, she has since stopped spending time with him, but continues to insist that nothing ever happened. She has been a little more loving and attentive. I asked her to cut him off, meaning block the number, block social media, etc. She refused, but said she would stop putting herself in a position where someone might get the wrong idea. She hasn't gone out for about a week now, except for one time when she spent the night at her girlfriend's house. Come on, guy. Do you really think? Up to this point, she's proven to be a liar. So now she knows that she doesn't want you to spend the night at another guy's house because that's unreasonable. So she'll say instead, oh, I'm going to a girlfriend's house. Are you following her to the girlfriend's house to make sure it's there? Are you staying overnight to make sure that she's actually staying at the girlfriend's house? You probably aren't. So that could likely be an excuse. But again, even if it's not, the fact that you have to even question that means that the level of trust is so broken that it's not worth continuing on in this relationship. Let's see. He says, he says she hasn't gone out for about a week, except the one time she spent at a girlfriend's house, but she was still completely out of touch until she messaged me at 3 a.m. to ask what I was doing. Sleeping, duh. Yeah, I'm sure she was up that late because she was too restless for some reason, right? He says, even though she stopped, I'm now coping with my gut screaming at me that something was happening. I don't know what to do. I love her, but I'm not even sure why anymore. Well, the reason you're still loving her is because, honestly, guy, you don't think you can get anybody else. And you don't want to go out there and try again because that takes extra time. On top of it, it's harder to get a girlfriend when you have a kid with somebody already. So that's really why. But in terms of her saying she stopped and she's, you're coping or whatever, and you don't know what to do, the reality, guy, is that you know what you need to do. It's just hard to pull that trigger. And I'm not in the habit of telling people what they should or should not do. That's probably a lie because I probably said it a few times in this video. But here's the thing, guy, is that for the sake of your daughter and being able to show her what a good, healthy relationship looks like and what behaviors to accept and not accept in a relationship, you have to ask yourself, is this worth continuing? And don't think that kids don't pick up on when mommy and daddy are fighting or when mommy's walking out for nights on end and is leaving daddy by himself and she's hearing daddy say, why are you leaving? And please don't go. And I don't like it when you hang out with these people. Like, you're now spreading that on to your kid. And your kid's going to see this and look at daddy and say, men are weak and, oh, mommy's doing what she wants to do. So when I grow up, I can do the same thing to guys. And that is not something you want to do. If anything, your daughter needs to be shown that there are consequences for when women do these kinds of actions on guys that they are married to or are in a relationship with and they care for, okay? But in terms of your own actual daily life, like, dude, this is a stressful situation. These are situations that can cause like heart problems, they can cause mental problems, and you really have to ask yourself, is it worth going through all that anguish simply to deal with this person? Now, here's the thing, guys, is that as men, we really focus on this thing of like, well, I need to have solid proof in order to do some stuff. Guy, sometimes you got to go on intuition. Like, women are great at like, they'll collect information, but they'll also go on intuition like, oh, I saw this guy do X, Y, and Z, so therefore he must be cheating. We'll do that and say, but there's still a chance that it's still because of our ego. We want to really hold off on having to admit to ourselves that our girl that we show all of our love to isn't showing it back. You have to read the situation for what is actually going on. So, based on this entire message, she already cheated once. So, don't think then that she learned that lesson that she would not do it again. It's already been proven that she will, in fact, do it once. She'll probably do it again. And all these behaviors, it's like, it'd be different if it was like one behavior that you're trying to read. These are like 10 behaviors here that are showing that if she's not cheating, she's getting close to it and still being very, very disrespectful. Guys, you are better than that, okay? So if you find yourself in this kind of situation whereby you can't trust your woman and you're seeing all these telltale signs that indicate she's actually doing something. And I don't mean you guys out there that are like, just these guys are like, well, if she hangs out with like one of her guy friends and 3 other girlfriends, then she must be automatically liking him. No, I'm talking about if there is like absolute concrete situations whereby she's going out all the time, she's texting dudes and she's walking out the room, she's not letting you see your stuff on video, she's not inviting guys over to meet you as well. These things build up to where it's like, oh, this mountain of evidence shows that something's probably going on and I gotta be out. And when that happens, guy, I promise you, in the long run, you'll be better for it. You'll find someone better who will respect you more. And then you're going to look back at this relationship and be like, why did I even stay in this in the first place? Thanks for watching this episode of the Introvert Dating Success Show. If you found the info in this episode to be helpful, please show your support by clicking on the tip jar tab, the link of which can be found at the website and in the description below. While there, you can also download a free copy of my ebook, Texting Like a Boss, where you'll learn the kinds of texts that really attract women. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment on this episode, and catch new episodes 7 days a week right here on YouTube or wherever podcasts can be found. In the meantime, be sure to check out some other episodes so that you too can learn to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.